Hi, my name's Salvatore Sorce. I'm one of the voice coaches here at the London School of English. Today we're going to be looking at pronunciation and how the changes happen between the Japanese pronunciation of English into English pronunciation. Well, there are some key things that we need to focus on here. So we're looking at particularly sounds that are challenging for the Japanese student. The Japanese R into the English R. And then the Japanese L, moving into the two types of English L. And then, very simply, the Japanese V and how it's substituted with the sound B. So, one of the things that we always need to focus on here is not saying that what you're doing is wrong and what we're doing is right. It's actually just saying what is different, and we are here to show you the bridge to make that difference a little bit clearer. That's all. Okay? With the Japanese pronunciation, what we have to remember here is that the setting of the jaw, the setting of the facial muscles, because this actually does affect quite strongly how sounds are produced. So, with regards to the Japanese sounds, what we're looking at here is, I always think of, when I think of Japanese, I think of a resting position, having worked with a few Japanese clients now, I think of a resting position where the teeth are quite close together. So a bit like this. Yeah, and a slight smile on the face. Yeah, so there's not really a lot of room for the tongue to move around within the mouth. So this is where it's quite important, because when you're making an R sound, you need to have at least that much more space rather than working on a tight space. So moving from a teeth together or teeth close together position of this to more of a, can you see, it's not much, but I'll show you actually, you'll see it against my finger. So if I'm doing, you can see there's a slight drop in the jaw, and that drop is what's really going to facilitate making this R sound. Now I know that having worked with Japanese clients before, that the R sound can be a little bit of a challenge, because it's not really sure the tip of the tongue is not really sure what it's supposed to be doing. So let me help you with that, and let me give you some very basic, simple steps to encourage your usage of the R as for English pronunciation. So basically what we're looking at here is how the tongue tip moves through the mouth. So the tongue tip, if we just take the tongue, and I'm going to try and do it outside of my mouth for a moment. Okay, so what you're seeing is my tongue curling back slightly. Now, I'm not going to be doing that outside of my mouth. I'm not going to be walking around going, hurrah, how are you today? It's more about what's happening inside the mouth. So in order to get an idea of the placement, what I'd like you to do is place your tongue tip against the back of your front top teeth. So you can feel that space there, okay, that area there. Slowly drag it back against the roof of the mouth. So what we're looking at here is something that's slightly stony, just as you lift away from the front teeth. Okay, now just go a tiny little bit past that and it becomes a little bit smoother. And that's where the tongue is going to start curling backwards. Don't take it too far back, because you'll end up in the big dome of what we call the hard palate. Okay, so you don't need to do that. Now that you've found that stony area, which we call the alveolar ridge, and then this tiny little area just behind it, which is called the post-alveolar ridge, where it suddenly becomes smooth, what we're going to do is bring that tongue tip down slightly. So if I'm going to do it outside of the mouth again, I'll show you. Can you see how I've just dropped my tongue tip down slightly? You're doing that inside the mouth. I'm sorry, I can't rip half of my face off, it doesn't work. Okay, so let's try, all we're doing is bringing the tongue tip there, and then just allowing it to uncurl forward. So this is going to feel odd, especially if you're not used to it. All you're doing now is creating a different muscular effort, something which your tongue may not be used to doing. It may take time to learn how to do this correctly. That's okay. There's no pressure here. It's just helping you facilitate the tongue use correctly. So all we're doing here is literally, I don't know if you can see that, all my tongue is literally doing is flicking forward. Now this is part one of making the R sound. If I just did this on its own, I'd be doing, the sound would sound like this. Ra, ra, ra. Doesn't really sound too much like an R that I want to be using in English pronunciation. So what I need to do is now combine my lip movement. So all my lips are going to do, we're just going to do this completely independently for a moment, and then we'll bring the two things together. So we are going to use the, we're going to bring the corners of the lips in as if we're making a small W. So it's, can you see it's really, really small what I'm doing? So literally lips come together, or the corners of the lips come together, and then release. Don't have to do anything harder than that. It's literally bring together. It's tiny, but it does make that difference. Now, when you are releasing the lips, that's when the tongue is coming through. So what we're doing is r, 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 r. And just think as well, something that might help you, think of like a small dog making a little bit of a growling sound. R, yeah? R, 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 r. So this is where you're going to see it in words like reference. Oh, that's a nice challenging one, isn't it? So let's keep it really simple to start off with then. Red, 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 right, right. You can see how my lips are softening there. So we've got reference, we've got register, 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 register. We've also got really. Now this is going to bring us onto the L sound, which we're going to focus on in a moment. Really. So r, and then the tongue tip goes back up and does another sound. We'll come to that in a moment. But that's a little bit of a more challenging one, but I wanted to give you something to aim towards. How about that? Okay. So really, really, or real, real. Okay. Just think. Just do the first part of it. Re, re, re. Okay. That's what we're going to focus on with the R sound for the moment. We're going to move on to the L sounds, because the L sound in Japanese it's almost interchangeable with the R. Yeah, there's not really a strength to the way that you use the L in comparison to the way that the English L is a little bit more pronounced. Okay, so we have two L's in English pronunciation. We have something called the light L, and we have something called the dark L. The light L happens at the front of the mouth. The dark L happens at the back of the mouth. Okay, the light L is literally, we just bring the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth and literally just let it drop. L, 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 l. So this part comes up to the roof of the mouth. L, 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 l. If anything, l, l. Just curl back the tongue tip a little bit. L, 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 l. Can you see how that's easier? So the words we're going to use here are like London, London, London. So we always use a little bit of voice through this. English, English, English. Yeah, it's very clearly an L sound. Or the word launch, launch, launch. And also language, language. So these are clear L or light L sounds which we're using with the front of the mouth. The dark L, on the other hand, I want you to say the word sing and bring the tongue back. Sing. The back of the tongue is basically massaging what we call the soft palate. Sing. So it's just there. Now, the tip of the tongue is actually behind the bottom teeth. Sing. It's just resting there, doing nothing. Now, to make the dark L, we need to lift that tip of the tongue up to in front, behind the top teeth. So we're working on single, single, single. So my tongue tip is moving from the base, behind my bottom teeth, up to the top teeth. Single. Can you see that movement? Single. So we're literally creating almost like a hammock or a banana within the mouth. So we're looking at this sound that's ul, ul, ul. Don't worry, this will take practice, but I know from past experience working with clients that definitely it can be done. It's just thinking in a different way and allowing the sounds to happen. So we're going to use the word real, and we're going to, so I just want you to try that sound again. We're using the R and then we're using all. Real, real, real. We're also going to use the sound in the dark L position in call, call, call. Now what you may want to do is actually completely ignore that L sound. Don't. Allow it to happen. Practice it until you get there. Another word that you'll hear the dark L sound in is financial, financial. One of the ways to remember the dark L when you use it, it's usually at the end of a word, after a vowel sound, after a vowel sound. Okay, so that's the R's, that's the L's. Let's move on to a substitution that can sometimes happen with a Japanese client working into English, and that's using the word v, or the sound v. So what we're doing, instead of what we're doing is bringing the top teeth, the bottom of the top teeth, this surface here, down to just inside the lower tip of the lower lip, sorry. So, and we're literally blowing air through and bringing some sound in there as well. Careful not to press the top teeth against the inside of the lip too hard, because what you'll end up with is this. And that's not fun. Okay? The way I always like to think about this one, the way I teach it, is I like to think of someone in a car in first gear. So it starts off as a moving up into second, moving into third, moving into fourth. So I really want you to start playing with the effort levels that you have within the V sound. Remember, not too much air. Otherwise what you'll end up with is, and that's not the V sound. The V sound is probably, I would say, more voice than it is air, but a really good balance. So we use this sound in review, investor, very, v. It's always there, it's always there, it's cleanly there. What happens within the Japanese pronunciation is you may move it into a B sound because you're not quite sure about these gymnastics that we're suddenly approaching this sound with. So it's just sometimes easier just to say b. So we would say review, investor, or berry. So just be very, very careful. It's not the lips, two lips coming together. That's what you may perceive it as, but it's actually the surface or the bottom edge of the top teeth touching the inside of the lip there. Remember not to put too much air through it, otherwise you'll end up with something that sounds investor, very. Okay? Don't need to do it. Make sure the sound is as equal as the air. Investor, very, review. Okay? I think that's about as much as we need to do today for pronunciation from Japanese into English. If you want to find out more about voice and accent training with the London School of English, please come and have a look at the website or contact us directly. Thank you.